one of the majors of this podcast, right, is back to basics. Putting mirrors, back to basics. So mirror that is designed by Grant Field and Richard Woodhouse. New prototype design here. It's got the 15-degree arc that comes down there. Ken Smith uses it. He obviously goes pretty good. Support those who support the podcast. TM15 below. Get your 15% off. I use it every day. I used it twice today in my lessons in the rain and got some great stuff with it. In the Back to Basics putting segment today, Emma, do you have something for us that you can share for the listeners in regards to something around helping them improve their putting?
Well, it's actually funny with kind of where we went earlier in the podcast with the setup. That's why I love that putting mirror, because it not only gives you feedback on your stroke itself, but you can see your eye line, you can see where your shoulders are pointing, you can see all these things that really, again, help from a consistency standpoint of your start line and all those things. But my big thing with putting that I think isn't worked on enough by the average golfer is actually just the tempo of their putting stroke. So I'm a big proponent of, and like for me personally, I feel my putting stroke a little bit more with my body than my arms. I feel specifically in my left rib cage for some reason. That's sort of where I feel that I putt from, just because my hands aren't maybe as reliable under pressure as just feeling that particular feeling in my rib cage. But it also helps me work on the consistency of my tempo. So if you can roll, go onto the putting green, work on your setup, and then just throw 4 or 5 balls down, hit the first one a miscellaneous distance, and it doesn't matter how far it goes, but try and hit the next 3 or 4 balls the same distance. It doesn't sound particularly challenging, but it's interesting, and I think a lot of golfers would be surprised at how hard it is. And building that consistency in your tempo really helps you, because again, you might be going and playing different golf courses every other day, seeing what tee times are available, and you're going to different golf courses, different green speeds. And it's a lot easier for your brain to calibrate how far back and through how hard to hit the putt if you're coming at your putting stroke from a consistent tempo each time. When you throw a ball underhand, it's not like sometimes you do it really fast and sometimes you do it slow. The back and forth of that throw is pretty consistent for most people, regardless of how far they have to throw the ball. Whereas putting, you can see a short back and a big through really quickly, and then a big back and a short through deceleration. And I think working on that, kind of tick-tock feel helps take your putting onto the golf course and helps your brain calibrate your distances better. And therefore, that low-hanging fruit of 3 putts from 30 feet, that's a far easier way to shave shots off your game than going and trying to hit your driver, increase your swing speed or whatever. So for me, consistent setup and then consistent tempo.
Interesting. And thank you there for talking about the mirror. The guys at Back to Basics will be stoked with that, especially Nick. Tell me about tempo there. I'm interested to hear what strategies should a player put in place or coaches can put in place to help someone with their tempo?
For me personally, when I was starting, when I was playing on tour, when I was practicing, I used a metronome, just an app on my phone with my headphones in, just to kind of calibrate the tempo of my stroke back and forth. Something really simple that I'll use for a lot of my students is simply picking, whether it's, the number 1, 2, or a 2-syllable word or something like that, and saying, the first syllable on the way back and the second syllable on the way through. And you just start to develop a little bit more of a rhythm. I see the word podcast above your head. So if we use podcast as an example, if we're pod on the way back and cast on the way through, it's a lot kind of easier. You get out of technical thoughts of thinking about your stroke and all of these things, but you also, your brain can start to go, well, I think I said that word a lot faster this time than I did the time before. And it starts to become a little bit more repeatable. So that's just a simple, like, you could take that onto the golf course today and use it kind of a hack. And then again, working on that before you go out on the golf course. I would say doing those tempo drills, the first thing you do when you get on the putting green before you go and play, would be far more useful than dropping a ball 3 feet away from the hole and putting it in without any real purpose behind it.
Did you have the metronome set? Do you remember what beat you had it set to, or do you like have
No,
it set
I don't
to?
remember anymore. No, I don't remember anymore.
It's I have a couple of numbers that I like to use. Well, one, it's crazy the number, but 69, right? I know it's just seems obnoxious, right? But that's the and when you talk about that, and I love that you mentioned that because it's so feel based when you say like podcast, and I'll even say like I had one of my students come visit me a while ago. We're online, we work a lot together. He's going to go to college, and we're just going straight to the putting green, right? And I'm just kind of like tick tock, and I'm like, no, you're tick tock, tick tock. He's like, I was like, let me go get my phone. I'll get the metronome out because it's like, and it's difficult to like when you start to feel it, isn't it? You can feel it like I said that too fast or too slow. I'm so glad that another golf coach has said that because I feel that as well. So setup, yes, absolutely right. And then what I like about that is that you've got two components there. One, you've kind of got the science of using a mirror here and helping yourself get nice and square and aligned well. And then you've got something in there which is kind of more the art, which is allowing you to try and get your feel and your distance control in there. And you've nailed the both of them together there. So, mate, I appreciate you dropping that into the Back to Basics putting segment there. Like I said to everyone, link is below. Support those who support the podcast. TM15, get your 15% off. And thanks to everyone who does buy them. Honestly, I get all the emails that do come through and they keep wanting to support the podcast. So you guys keep doing that and we'll keep having sponsors for the podcast. And I appreciate you all.